A woman visits her newborn daughter in the morgue to see her for the last time, and when saying goodbye to her, she makes an incredible discovery. It is the most surprising discovery that left the entire world shocked. If you watch this video until the end, I assure you that you will feel like you are on a real emotional roller coaster. To begin, we have Analia Lucia Wood, an Argentine woman who, after having given birth to 4 of her children, became pregnant with a 5th child who would be a girl. Both she and her partner Fabian were very excited, but at the same time, they were also very worried and just wanted everything to go well, so as not to go through the hard time of losing a child again like the last time. But unfortunately, she began having contractions when she was just beginning 26 weeks of gestation, so when her water broke, she was transferred to a hospital in northeastern Argentina. They couldn't believe what was happening. The baby was still too small to be born. Although little Lucia decided to be born on April 3, 2012, even without being prepared, since the birth was almost 3 months early. But she was so tiny that she barely weighed 1 kilo and 500 grams, but the most serious thing of all was that apparently her lungs were not yet mature to breathe on their own, and she gave no signs of life. The doctors attended to her and immediately tried to resuscitate her, not only them, but they were also accompanied by a neonatologist whom they called, but they were also unable to detect any vital signs in little Lucia. Upon seeing that she had been born lifeless, they officially declared her dead, issuing a death certificate, even before they had issued a birth certificate. Her delicate little body was wrapped in cloth and placed in a small wooden coffin. On the other hand, Analia was anesthetized the entire time due to the complexity of the intervention, and she did not realize everything that had happened until a long time after the birth had ended. Upon waking up from anesthesia, still not remembering what she was doing there, she receives the heartbreaking news that left her completely defeated. She couldn't believe that she was going through something like that again and that she had lost her little daughter. Everything happened so fast that she still felt dazed, and she just wanted to check if her daughter was really not alive. She felt a strong urge to go see her little daughter and take a photo of her for the funeral service. When she told her husband about her wish, she made him and her brother please her and take her to the morgue to fulfill her wish, for that they got permission from the doctors. 12 hours had already passed since Lucia's birth. Imagine how Analia must feel being still weak and susceptible from childbirth, and all the pain that a mother feels after having gone through the emotions of losing a child. It was very heartbreaking for Analia and her partner Fabian, when in the morgue, they located the small coffin that contained Lucia's little body, that when they opened the drawer it was already sealed with nails, and that the only way to open the small wooden chest was with a lever, so they used one, and by using force, Fabian managed to open the coffin. When Analia looked into the box, she looked with deep sadness at her little girl's tiny body and then reached out to touch her tiny fingers, and while she slowly and gently slid her hands along the fabric that covered her body, suddenly Analia managed to hear a small scream, and discovered something unimaginable. She saw those beautiful, big, bright eyes of her daughter looking at her, leaving her completely shocked. At that moment she jumped back, because she couldn't believe it. So she was confused. She repeated over and over again, "It's my imagination, it's my imagination." However, the screams continued and there was her baby, more alive than ever. Lucia, at the same time, also fixed her gaze, with eyes as if they wanted to speak and tell her mother, "Here I am, come for me." So Annalie and her husband were stunned, while Annalie's brother reacted and quickly ran with her little girl in her arms to take her as quickly as possible to the neonatal ward, putting her safely in the hands of the nurses. The baby was frozen, like a stone of ice, clinging to her arms, searching with her mouth for the warmth of her mother's breasts. There could be no more faithful confirmation that she was more alive than ever. She was quickly admitted to the intensive care unit to warm her little body and administer some oxygen, to later feed her and perform the necessary tests to find out if the stay in the morgue refrigerator would have caused her any harm. Now, we have to ask ourselves how all this could have happened. Lucia was undergoing the treatments, while now her parents were more confused than ever, and were trying to overcome the emotional blow of having lost their daughter and immediately realizing that she was not yet gone. Since it was a miracle for them, they decided that they would no longer call her Lucia but Luz Milagros. Even though her father Fabian could not explain what had happened, there is no doubt in his mind that it was a miracle. The doctors also couldn't explain what had happened, how it was possible that the baby was still alive and no one noticed. Therefore, an investigation is opened into the case to see if there is anyone responsible for this big mistake. All the workers involved in the case have been suspended from their jobs until said investigation is concluded. This was announced by the local Undersecretary of Health at a press conference. Meanwhile, the intensive care doctors who care for Luz Milagros decided that she would be transferred by plane to a hospital in Buenos Aires, since there they have a special room for neonates with high-tech equipment. However, after a couple of days, everyone has a great scare again, since Luz Milagros stops breathing, since her heart stopped after a hemorrhage in the lungs, but they managed to save her again after cardiopulmonary resuscitation time. This caused irreversible damage to his brain, with only 10% of his brain still functioning. As for Luz, she spends the next 10 weeks in machines that keep her alive. However, every day she gains more strength and gains more weight, until the day she was able to drink milk from her mother, like a good sign. Unfortunately, her father Fabian could not withstand so much pressure and left Analia alone with her daughter, so Analia had to move on and take care of everything on her own. The day came when little Luz Milagros was ready to have her oxygen taken away and to be transferred to another unit closer to her home, and finally, after so many months of fear and mixed emotions since her peculiar birth, Luz Milagros was already ready. Strong enough to return home with her mother, who was the one who had been with her daughter at all times. When she felt her, she knew that she had a true miracle in her arms when she took her home. However, Luz Milagros was still not completely out of danger, and for the next 14 months she would develop several health complications. Apparently, he also has developmental problems, and it was clear that the fact that he was born 3 months early, and having spent 12 long hours in the cold, in addition to having suffered a cardiac arrest, had not left his little body unscathed. For Analia, even though she surrounded her little Luz Milagros with all her care and a lot of love, it was very hard for her, since she was not a rich woman. After some follow-up tests, they discovered that she suffers from microcephaly and also a delay in the development of her brain, which could be solved with a stem cell transplant, which is a very expensive treatment, and Analia did not have the money to do it, but she thought about alternative of taking Luz Milagros by plane to China to receive treatment. It was there that he started an online campaign to raise funds, even though doctors told him he would not be strong enough for the trip. Then a couple of months after her first birthday, her health suddenly began to deteriorate, and at the end of June she suffered cardiac arrest again, and Analia took her to the hospital again, but from there Luz Milagros connected to an artificial respiration system, but remained in critical condition for several hours, the artificial respiration system no longer appearing to work. And that's how the miracle baby couldn't take it anymore and unfortunately died. It was a very heartbreaking moment, but this time she was gone for good. As I told you at the beginning, this would be a real emotional roller coaster, and it was. I can't help but imagine how she must have felt to lose her baby for the second time, and not be able to do anything else, since it was final. After Analia shared her loss with the world, she wrote an incredibly moving public farewell letter, which said, "My love, today we are not saying goodbye because we will see each other again." In her letter she also thanked every minute that God had given her to be next to Luz Milagros, and with great pride she assured that in the last year, 2 months and 20 days with her, they have made her the happiest woman on this planet. Analia concludes her letter by saying, "Today my angel is happy, running and laughing as we all want him to be." Surely Luz Milagros had fulfilled a mission on this earth. Once she was approached by a boy telling her that she had thought about ending her life, but once she saw Luz Milagros fight so much, she thought, because I can't do it too. These letters have given goosebumps to many people who have wished Analia a lot of strength in those difficult times.